What a great way for us to recognise each other. What a great idea. Although I think it would have been pretty hard to miss you underneath that huge clock.
No.
What do we do in terms of saying hello? I'm not what a picture. Is it a handshake or is it a hug? I mean, is it formal? You know what? We're adults. Let's just go in. Oh, too soon for that? Nope. Mwah. Hello there. So, oh my God, that's not your emergency exit phone call already, is it? Because, I haven't had a chance to use any of my best lines yet.
A clip from Man Up, which stars Simon Pegg, who joins us now. Welcome to Radio 5 Live. Simon Pegg, lovely to see you.
You too. I haven't seen you for ages.
Years and years and years. I'm not even going to bring up the last time I saw you, actually, because it's not for It's
I
not
only
for
see
the
you
air.
on It Takes Two these days.
Watch It Takes Two. I'm so chuffed. Congratulations on your brilliant film, Man Up movie. We love it. Reportedly, when Naira Park at Big Talk sent you the script, she said you can read it over Christmas, get back to me in time. And apparently you called her back within 2 hours
I did.
and said, I'm in. What was so great about Tess Morris's script that just made you think, I've got to do this?
Well, we were shooting The World's End, and I was staying in a hotel in East London because I live quite far out of London now, so it was easier to sleep near this big hole in the ground we were shooting in. And I got back to the hotel with this script on my iPad that Naira had given to me by hand, just said, look, emailed it rather. And I thought I might as well read it now, I've got nothing to do. It was set in London, and that was a big appeal for me because it meant I could stay close to my family and sleep in my own bed. So I thought, if this is any good, if this is even half good, I'll do it because I want to, be near my kid. So I read it, and before I knew it, I'd finished it, and I was like, this is incredible. This is like a really fun read. It was really fluid and fast and consistently very funny. And I love the fact that Tess had written it for Big Talk. She'd written it on spec for Big Talk, which made, Sean and Hot Fuzz and all those things. So I liked her moxie. I liked her before I met her. And it was just a really, really fun, honest, unashamedly romantic comedy in the truest sense of the word. And the fact that Naira had suggested me for it, I thought, okay, well, if she thinks I can do it, maybe I can do it. And that was that. And then we set about finding our Nancy and our director. But it was entirely the script that sort of kind of hooked me.
It's so good. You found your Nancy in Lake Bell, who plays Brit here. Obviously, a lot of people will know her from Inner World.
Yeah.
I really wanted to do the voice over there, but I can't do it. She is American. She's a writer, director, really talented actress. And obviously, with a romantic comedy, it's all about, you've got to want them to get together, haven't you?
Yes.
There's got to be the chemistry. So when you first met her, what does she bring to the table? Were you thinking wait, that's our Nancy?
Well, it was interesting because we've been looking for her in the UK, and we were trying to, following certain avenues, certain people. We couldn't quite find the right person for the voice that Tess had created, and then we thought we were going to have to cast the net wider, and that obviously brought America into the equation. We thought maybe we could contrive it so that Nancy was American, but that just felt really wrong. It wasn't about an American. It wasn't because she couldn't be American, but it would have meant some hoops to jump through, which would have made it feel like we were trying to please a transatlantic, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was very much, she was very much a British heroine. She was based on Tess. So Lake came along, who was able to do the most convincing British accent you could imagine from an American actor. Often the Americans find it quite hard to do British because it's such a varied voice, whereas Lake's very, very good. She has a great ear. I think she even she even said the accent was like Wandsworth or something. It's like a specific part of London.
Yes, I've heard it. She went to didn't she go to
She went to
art
Rose
school here
Bruford,
or something
yeah.
or other, and she said she'd sort of based it around some of her friends there.
Yeah,
that's really specific. Well
so
done.
she had a kind of, she just had a gift there, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. We can cast forward in that we can cast an actress not many people know, and at the same time someone who is incredibly adept and fresh, and it just seemed to be the right choice. So we cast her in LA. Me and Tess, Naira went over. We read at the Sunset Tower, and came away thinking, yeah, that's Nancy. It's got to be her. So that's how Lake came on board.
You found your Nancy.
Yeah.
She's absolutely brilliant. I have to say, this is all about dating and somebody going in on somebody's blind date that she's not supposed to go on. In fact, I should ask you to tell us briefly, what is the story about, Man Up?
Oh, okay. Well, it's about a woman called Nancy, who was established. She's 34, and she's kind of at the end of her dating tether a bit. She's not sure what she's doing. Whether she should be out there or not be out there. She's in a crisis. She winds up at Waterloo Station, and a man just comes up to her out of nowhere and says, "Are you my blind date?" And he's very sort of charming and self-effacing, and in a kind of moment of madness, she says yes instead of no. This is something that actually happened to Tess, although she said no, obviously. But she thought, what would happen if I had said yes? And so the film is about a date which is predicated on this complete, sort of fake ID kind of moment, which then becomes something else entirely. And they're forced by very clever writing to stay together for the whole of the night. So the whole thing takes place over one night, and it's in the greatest tradition of the sort of screwball romantic comedies. It is a journey toward romantic nirvana.
I have to say also, you're married, so how do you think you would fare in the online dating age? Because I've got lots of friends going through this, perhaps who've been in relationships and slightly older. It's so tough out there. This is addressed really brilliantly in the film.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like what Tess has done is she's kind of sculpted the last possible romantic comedy of this kind that can exist in this era, because these days you can't really have a blind date. You're going to look that person up online. They'll have an online presence. There's all these different apps and things that you can pretty much get to know somebody before you know them. You'll go to their Twitter, you go to their Facebook. Whereas what Tess did cleverly is kind of make them both a bit Luddite about that kind of thing, so they're not on Facebook. And so there's no way that they can really know what each other look like. But I don't know. Is it easier? Is it harder? I mean, these days, it used to be that you'd go out for dinner and you'd sort of like skirt around someone for a couple of weeks.
You could sniff people. I always thought it was quite good, because a lot of it's about smell. I know that makes me sound really strange, but I think it's quite important, isn't it?
It is. I mean, dogs do it in the most obvious way. It's like that's what we're doing now. We're looking at our kind of, we're identifying people from a sort of signature in the air, which is their online presence. It's the same as a dog's bottom.
Great supporting cast. Ken Stott's there, Harriet Walker, Sharon Horgan, even King Tommen, Dean Charles Chapman from Game of Thrones appears.
Before he was King Tommen, although he'd shot the first, it's season 4, but when he said, I've just done Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, really? So, and since then, season 5 has been on, and I've seen him, our little Dean, becoming a man
of Game of Thrones. I imagine terrible things will happen to him at some point. But Rory Kinnear,
yes,
he's so wonderful in this. He has some real scenes that he completely steals.
Rory is so funny. He has one of those roles in this, which is exactly that. He's this kind of this fly in the ointment of their night, which becomes the thing that at the same time undoes them and brings them together. He's a fantastic sort of mercurial, puckish character who's terrible. He's an awful person, a mad kind of stalker of Lake's character. But in actual fact, you end up loving him, even though he's borderline creepy. I'd say borderline. He's actually over the line creepy.
He is so good. Men love this film. This is another thing I love. Often you say rom-coms, it's like, a girly film.
Yeah.
I know lots of men who say Chris Evans has been going crazy about this film.
He loves it, doesn't he?
On Radio 2. Dermot O'Leary absolutely loved it. It's not just a girls' film, is it?
Not at all. And rom-coms shouldn't be, because they're about, if it's a heterosexual rom-com, it should be about for men and women. It's about both sides of the coin, And I think the truth is, and this is something I've thought about recently, and this will get me into trouble, I'm sure, but I think women write men better than men write women, because men tend to write women as their fantasy, and women tend to write men as what they really are. And I also think women tend to understand men better than we understand women, and it just means that the character that Tess wrote for me in this movie is a far more rounded. He starts off as a bit of a fantasy because he seems so dashing, but he actually turns out to be a wreck. He's pretending to be someone else as well as Nancy is. She's taken someone's identity. He's pretending to be someone who's a lot cooler than he really is. So they're both lying to each other, really. And I just think that's a really smart kind of way of looking at it. And she wrote a character who is real and flawed, and both of them they are. Whereas guys will tend to write the girl they want to date rather than a girl that's really out there who is flawed and who is a bit kind of like, unpredictable or not celebrate that part of being a person. And so I would plant my flag in that assumption that women write men better than men write women.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Let's talk about Mission Impossible Rogue Nation coming up very soon. I imagine you'll be promoting that very soon. And your character, I've heard, gets to do an awful lot more, including a car chase through Casablanca.
Yeah,
I got this right.
It's true. Yeah, we I've been playing this part for 10 years now, and he's kind of evolved over the 3 films I've done, from being this sort of schlubby kind of IT guy to this full-on kind of up to my elbows in action sort of secret agent. So it's been really fun to play that. And in this one, we ended up having like 5 days just racing around Casablanca in a BMW at very, very high speed. Which was at once terrifying and extremely exciting. Tom Cruise is an extraordinary driver. Like the stunt coordinator, Wade, said, I said, who's doing the driving? Oh, Tom. I don't have anyone better than Tom. So it literally was just me and him for these 5 days, just kind of like, it was crazy.
That's how bonkers
But
is
with
that?
cameras on the car, you know, we were driving around alleyways with 3 foot of extra equipment, just like thousands and thousands of pounds worth of cameras attached to the car. And we're just pulling all these handbrake turns.
And you trust Tom Cruise with your life?
I do, yeah. I never felt unsafe, funnily enough. He is an extraordinary driver. We crashed a couple of times. But then, you know...
There's insurance for that.
Hazards of the job.
Do you still get to work out with Tom Cruise?
We did on Mission. That was our sort of... Myself, Tom and Rebecca Ferguson, who plays our amazing heroine in the movie, Ilsa Faust. When we were all on location together, we generally... At the end of because you've got to keep so fit, you can't really let yourself go on these films, otherwise you'll fall behind. So, and we had some trainers on set who would be there the whole time. So at the end of the day, we'd all go and have these, we'd work out together, and it was hilarious. It was like an 80s montage.
I love your life. Your whole life is like an 80s montage. Let's talk about Star Trek 3, which you've co-written. Can you reveal anything? Everybody's asking questions online, no matter where you look. No one seems to know anything yet, except the core cast are going to be back.
Yeah, well, only that it's going to be very Star Trek-y. I kind of got told off, and quite rightly so, a couple of last week for saying it wouldn't be. It was a complete misunderstanding. It was like a clickbait reduction of something I was trying to articulate, which I did badly. It's the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, you know, and it's something. It's a story which I've loved since I was 8 or 9 years old, and I'm trying. Myself and Doug Jung, my co-writer, and the production team, Justin Lin, the director, are trying to, you know, pull together a really, really worthy instalment for this 50th anniversary. And it's hard work, but it should be, you know, it shouldn't be easy. It should be something that we put our heart and soul into, which we are doing, I can assure you.
You said it. Any plans to collaborate with Mr. Edgar Wright again in the future? I mean, you're
Absolutely.
So busy, I don't know when you'd find the time, but...
No, I'm hopefully when both of us emerge from the current thicket of activity we are both in, we'll be able to sync up and get back in the writing room together. And I love writing with Edgar, and I love working with Edgar and Nick, and I don't foresee myself ever not working with them. You know, I hope to make many more trilogies with those guys, or one-offs or whatever, and I can't wait to be back in my sort of, you know, in my comfort zone with them. Not that it is always a comfort zone, it's usually pretty challenging, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. And we must... Star Wars, is this a Simon Pegg smokescreen? Have you sort of... is there an appearance by you? Will you crop up in Star Wars? Will we all go, that's him?
I will definitely crop up in the audience. I feel like I've visited to JJ when he was making the movie, and because... You know, obviously he's a very good friend of mine, and he was down the road making that movie. Of course I was going to go and visit. I can't wait to see it. I'm really excited for what he's doing, and I think people are going to be... We've all seen the trailer, and, you know, every kind of little tingle that you feel watching that trailer will be magnified 1 billion times when you see the movie. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Simon, good luck with the film Man Up. Opens tonight. And we look forward to seeing all your other 18 projects that are coming out later on this year. Lovely to see you.
You too.